going on, everyone out there watching this, wherever you are watching it from, Twitter or YouTube? Thank you. This is 1990, the year in wrestling, part 1. I'll be talking about Royal Rumble 1990. I'll be talking about Wrestle War 1990 from WCW NWA pay-per-view event. I'll also talk about Clash of Champions 10, which I believe was in February of 1990. Also, I'll talk about WrestleMania 5, which was in 1990. And I guess I'll talk about Wrestle War May, I think it was May, Capital Combat pay-per-view 1990. So this video may go over 45 minutes. Sorry about that, but I got a lot of events to talk about. Like 4 big pay-per-views, from 2 from WCW, 2 from the WWF. Then I'll talk about 1 or 2 Clash of Champions, and then in part 2 I'll talk about SummerSlam and Great American Bash and those other events. First event I'll talk about was Royal Rumble 90, which was held in Miami. I believe, I think it's held in, maybe it's Orlando, Florida. I think it's Miami. Let me check here. Orlando Arena in Orlando, Florida. That's where Royal Rumble 90 was held. The attendance was 16,000. Big crowd. I'm sure it's a sellout. Anyways, now I'm going to talk about Royal Rumble 90. Matches that were not shown on the pay-per-view. This was a dark match. Paul Roma defeated Steve Lombardi. Steve Lombardi is the Brooklyn Brawler, longtime WWF, still WWE employee. Steve Lombardi loses to Paul Roma in a dark match. And on the pay-per-view, Royal Rumble pay-per-view matches were, you had the Bushwhackers take on the Rougeau brothers, which was super boring and should have not been on a Royal Rumble pay-per-view. But I guess they wanted to get the Bushwhackers over because they were new in the WWF and they were a new team and the new team in town. So the Bushwhackers defeated the Rougeaus, and it went 13 minutes. And the Rougeau brothers, I always enjoyed their theme song, and I thought they had a great, awesome theme. They were singing. They're basically from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and they're singing, they're all American boys, they're all American boys. Or, I think they were singing, we're all American boys. And then you had cheesy background music. I believe Jimmy Hart came up with that theme for the Rougeaus when they were singing themselves to the ring, we're all American boys. We're all American boys. I think that was their theme anyways. So the Bushwhackers defeat the Rougeaus. Should have never been on pay-per-view, but it was. Lanny Poffo and Brutus Beefcake had wrestled to a double disqualification. Lanny Poffo was the Genius at the time. The Genius gimmick, and Brutus Beefcake was his barber gimmick. Double DQ in that one. Another match should have not been on a pay-per-view. Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated the Big Boss Man by disqualification. It was pretty boring, and it went 10 minutes long. This match, a lot of people I don't think like it or enjoy it. I've heard from a lot of people, and they've told me they did not enjoy this match, and they thought it was stupid. It was a submission match. It was Ronnie Garvin rugged Ronnie Garvin. Defeat Greg Valentine by submission. I enjoyed this match. I thought it was hard hitting. You had Ron Garvin beat the hell out of Greg Valentine and chop his chest. And he's hitting him hard as hell. He's smacking him, chopping him super stiff. But that's how Ronnie Garvin worked. He always had great chops and delivered them very hard and very stiff. Ronnie Garvin, one of my favorite guys to watch in the ring. I thought he was great. But he didn't have any personality, really. That's why he probably didn't last long in his WWF run. When he came into the WWF and he appeared at Royal Rumble 89. He was around the entire year of 89. And then Royal Rumble 90 was Ronnie Garvin's last WWF pay-per-view, I believe. So he was only around about a year and 2 or 3 months, and then he was gone. I don't think Vince really liked him because he's NWA. He came from the NWA, and Vince never put a character on Ronnie Garvin. I don't think Ronnie Garvin was stupid enough to agree to take a stupid-ass, dumb character like the Red Rooster, or like what Dusty Rhodes had to wear polka dots. I don't think Ronnie Garvin would have agreed to that. He would have basically said, F you, Vince, I'm not doing a stupid character. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to just wrestle. And I respect that. Ronnie Garvin didn't have a great run in the WWF, but him and Greg Valentine at Royal Rumble 90 was my favorite match of his WWF run. I thought it was hard-hitting and great. And Ronnie Garvin was wearing a brace, like that baseball players wear on their ankles, basically a shield or padding, whatever you want to call it, padding, like plastic padding that baseball players wear or soccer players wear. He was wearing that on his ankle. Greg Valentine was wearing protective padding also on his ankle. And basically, I think he put the figure 4 on Ron Garvin, and Ron Garvin basically made fun of him and was making funny faces at Greg Valentine because he couldn't feel any pain because he had the plastic protective thing on his ankle. That was the only thing that wasn't good about that match, is the comedy that was involved. So, as I said, Ron Garvin, not Greg Valentine. Ron Garvin defeated Greg Valentine. It was a submission match. So you had four matches. Basically, didn't mean much. And the best match was Ron Garvin and Greg Valentine. 4 matches before the main event, the 30-man over the top rope, every man for himself Royal Rumble match. And Hulk Hogan came in at, I don't know what number he was. He came in at late. Andre the Giant was in it earlier. Demolition was in this. Jake the Snake was in it. Ted DiBiase was in it. Coco Beware, Macho King. Dusty Rhodes, I believe, was in it. The Rockers were in it. Haku was in it. Rick Rude was in this. Rowdy Piper was in it. Bad News Brown was in it. And who else? Mr. Perfect was in this. And then the Ultimate Warrior was in it. And he came out. And him and Hogan both threw out, I think, heels. They both threw heels out of the Rumble. And they were left alone in the 1990 Royal Rumble. And it was awesome. The crowd popped. They loved it. Hogan and Warrior started circling the ring, basically staring at each other. And they were ready to hook it up and go at it. And they did go at it a tiny bit. I believe Warrior did a drop down. Hogan jumped over him, drop downer, and then I think they hit a double clothesline on each other, if I remember right. So that was really cool to see Hogan and Warrior go at it in the Royal Rumble. That set up the WrestleMania 6 match a couple months down the road. So the Rumble laid the groundwork for Hogan and Warrior's WrestleMania 6 match. Basically, it kicked it off. And everybody knows Hulk Hogan wins the 1990 Royal Rumble. It lasted 58 minutes, 46 seconds, when Hogan threw out Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, to win the 1990 Royal Rumble match. Up next, I'm going to talk about Clash of Champions. The Clash of Champions 10. This goddamn page, where is it? Clash of Champions 10, which was on February 6th, 1990, was Clash of Champions number 10. First match, you had Dr. Death, Steve Williams defeat the Samoan Savage. Up next, you had Brian Pillman and the Z-Man. They were a new tag team. They were a pretty good tag team. Defeat the Mob Squad. Mob Squad sounds like some jobbers. I'm sure they were. They looked like jobbers anyways. Mil Mascaras, the legend from Mexico, the man of 1,000 masks, took on Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, and he had a very short run in WCW in 1990. He appeared at Clash of Champions 10, and Cactus Jack also appeared at Capital Combat pay-per-view in a 6-man tag, and he also appeared at Wrestle War in a one-on-one match against Bastion Booger, which was Norman the Lunatic. But he was known as Cactus Jack Manson. He took on Mil Mascaras. I don't know why they brought in Mil Mascaras. He wasn't part of WCW at the time. He never appeared on any other events ever in WCW's history. So it was a one-time deal. You had Mil Mascaras. I think he showed up, worked Clash of Champions 10 because Clash of Champions 10 was in Texas. And I guess they wanted Mil Mascaras because it was in Texas. And Texas has a big Hispanic population, I believe. So maybe they thought Mil Mascaras would draw a few more people. So Cactus Jack Manson loses to Mil Mascaras. Kevin Sullivan defeated Norman the Lunatic, which was boring. And I believe Kevin Sullivan beat the hell out of Norman the Lunatic on the outside of the ring, and that was enjoyable to watch. The Road Warriors defeated the New Skyscrapers. Mark Callis. Mark Callis. I think that's how you say the Undertaker's last name. I don't believe that's his real last name. I think his last name is Calloway, but he was called Mark Callis. And Dan Spivey. The Road Warriors defeat the New Skyscrapers by DQ. Up next, you had the Steiners defeat Doom, and then after this match, the Steiners, Doom unmasked, and they were Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. Up next, main event was Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson. The Four Horsemen defeat the Great Muta, the Dragon Master, and Buzz Sawyer in a cage match. And before this cage match, they did a Terry Funk. He was commentating, not on this show, but he did commentate Wrestle War 90 pay-per-view with Jim Ross. Jim Cornette was commentating this show with Jim Ross. But Terry Funk was doing an in-ring interview with the Horsemen, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, and basically they told Sting he was not going to sign the contract to get his world title shot against Flair, that he had to give it up, and basically he had no other option but to give it up or say we're going to beat him down. And basically they beat down Sting anyway. Flair slapped him in the face, yelled at him and said, "Get out of this business, kid." And Ole Anderson told him earlier, "You're no longer a horseman, Sting. You're not going to be a horseman anymore." And they beat him up, ripped his shirt off, and basically left Sting laid out in the ring at the Clash of Champions 10. During the main event, Ric Flair was involved in a 6-man tag cage match. Sting runs down to the ring, starts climbing the cage, wanting to get at Flair. Flair was standing on the top rope, reaching over the cage, wanting to get at Sting. It was a very hot feud. The fans were into it. They wanted to see Sting and Flair go at it. And unfortunately, very tragic, Sting jumps down from the cage and tears his knee, messes his knee up, injures his knee when he fell down on it wrong. I believe he tore his MCL or his ACL. Anyway, Sting injured his knee really bad, and he started walking to the back to basically get help. He was basically couldn't walk on his knee that he injured. He was going to the back. Flair comes out of the cage, not knowing at all that Sting legitimately hurt his knee really bad. Flair leaps over all these wrestlers. I think Flying Brian was there, Brian Pillman, Z-Man was there to break it up. Flair leaps over all these wrestlers, jumps on top of Sting when Sting's knee was all fucked up. So that was crazy to see that. But Flair didn't know Sting was hurt. But that was just nuts. But it was a great thing to see to kick off Flair and Sting's feud in 1990. And then the big payoff, Great American Bash. Everybody knows Sting won his first world title, beating the Nature Boy. So that was nuts when Sting jumped on top of Flair. I mean, Sting's knee was all messed up. And he probably injured Sting's knee even more. So Sting was out of action from February 1990 until Great American Bash, which was in June. So for a pretty bad knee injury, Sting had knee surgery from Dr. James Andrews, expert knee surgery surgeon guy that does surgery on all the top athletes. Sting had surgery done in February, and he's back in June. So he's out only 4 months. That's really lucky. Sting was a great athlete, so he recovered pretty fast, came back, won the world title. That was great. That was Clash of the Champions 10. And Flair, Anderson, and Ole Anderson, as I said, defeated Buzz Sawyer, the Great Muta, and the Dragon Master in a cage in the main event. Up next, I'll talk about the first WCW pay-per-view of the year, which was Wrestle War 90. It was called Wild Thing. Why did they call it Wild Thing? I don't know. The promos for it were awful. Wrestle War 90 was held in Greensboro, North Carolina. The attendance was 9,894 people. Where's this goddamn page to Wrestle War? article in my other book, because the page is missing where Wrestle War was. Wrestle War 1990, February 25th, 1990. First match was a lot of boring matches around this show, Wrestle War. The only good matches were Midnight Express, Rock and Roll, and Luger and Sting in the main event. Were the only good matches worth watching on the entire show. But I'll run down the other matches that I didn't care about. Kevin Sullivan and Buzz Sawyer defeated the Dynamic Dudes, and that gimmick was dead in 1990. The Dynamic Dudes should have been gone in 1990. Shane Douglas, great worker, great wrestler. He became really good in ECW. Good Lord. Some asshole driving past in their car, blasting their music. God-awful music. Anyways, as I told you in my other video, part 3 of 1989, my neighborhood is crazy. It's out of control. People do what the fuck they want. They blast music every fucking day if they want to. I hear gunshots in the summer. I could hear gunshots every fucking week. Just about every night I hear gunshots close to my house. It's not a great neighborhood. I'm in a fucking ghetto. I'm in the ghetto part. Not the worst ghetto. Not the worst neighborhood. But it's not good. It's, you gotta be tough to live in my neighborhood. And I've lived here since I was 5 years old. So I'm used to it. But it's a ghetto neighborhood. It's not safe. And it's loud. And the people are nuts. There's some decent people on my block that are quiet. But then there's a lot of other assholes that are not quiet. Anyways, I'll get off ranting about my neighborhood and back to Wrestle War 90. Okay, the next match was Norman the Lunatic pinned Cactus Jack. That match was god-awful, and I don't blame Cactus Jack. I don't blame Mick Foley, but that match was just awful. Shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. Rock and Roll Express defeated the Midnight Express. That was a great tag team match. That definitely deserved to be on a pay-per-view. It was great. Two great tag teams. They worked with each other before probably over 100 times, and they had always had great tag matches. The Rock and Roll versus the Midnight were great tag matches always. Up next was the Road Warriors defeated the New Skyscrapers. And that match was really short. It only went 4 minutes, 59 seconds. U.S. Tag Title match. The Z-Man and Brian Pillman defended and beat Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin, the Fabulous Freebirds, to retain the U.S. Tag Titles. World Tag Team titles on the line. The Steiner brothers defeated Ole Anderson and Arn Anderson, the Andersons, to retain the tag titles. So Steiners retain the tag titles. Z-Man and Brian Pillman retain the U.S. tag titles. And then you had the main event. It was a very good match. Flair defending the world title against Lex Luger. And that match went 38 minutes. Flair brought the best out, for sure, in Lex Luger at Wrestle War 90. It's a pretty damn good match. If you got the WWE Network, check out Wrestle War 90 for Flair versus Luger. It's worth it. I wouldn't say Wrestle War 90 is worth, Flair versus Luger is not worth $9.99, but everything else is. All the old Raws, all the NXTs, all the live specials, all the live monthly pay-per-views are worth it. Up next, as I said, Flair defeated Lex Luger, and Flair was world champ. Lex Luger was U.S. champ, but the U.S. title was not on the line. So, Lex Luger, I believe, started getting attacked by the Horsemen, and Sting was at ringside. He had crutches with him. Came down to the ring on crutches, so Sting was still at Wrestle War 90, even though he couldn't even walk. He was recovering from the knee injury. And then, since Luger left the ring to rescue the injured Sting, which was being attacked. Sting was being attacked by Ole and Arn Anderson of the Horsemen. That was Wrestle War 90. As I said, rock and roll in midnight, well worth it. Well worth watching Wrestle War for that match. And Luger and Flair is also a great main event. Well worth watching Wrestle War 90 for those two matches. Up next, I'll talk about WrestleMania 6. I believe it was billed as the Ultimate Challenge. You had the Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior, taking on the WWF World Heavyweight Champion, Hulk Hogan. It was champion versus champion for the first time in WWF history. I believe the Intercontinental title, they never mentioned it, that it was on the line, but I'm pretty sure it was on the line. So it's champion versus champion, WrestleMania 6. I'll go over it now. In a lot of matches, there were a lot of useless, pointless matches on WrestleMania 6. The card had too many matches on it. Had at least 14, probably 12, 13, 14 matches on WrestleMania 6. That's way too many, but I guess, as I said in my other videos, they wanted to get everybody on the roster work, and they wanted them to work WrestleMania 6. So they put just about every talent they had under contract, they were on WrestleMania 6. WrestleMania 6 was from the Sky Dome, home of the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't think it's called the Sky Dome anymore. I think it's called the Rogers Center. Anyways, it was from Sky Dome, first WrestleMania in Canada, in Toronto, Canada. And the crowd was huge. I think it's like 65,000 people plus, or 64,000 plus, attended WrestleMania 6. Edge was there. He was in the crowd as a young kid. That was pretty cool. So, first match was the model Rick Martel against Coco Beware. And Rick Martel defeated Coco Beware, I believe, with a Boston Crab in 6 minutes. Up next, you had the tag team titles on the line. The Heenan family, the Colossal Connection, I believe was their name. Anyways, it was the Heenan family, Haku and Andre the Giant, the tag champs, defending against the former two-time WWF Tag Team Champions, Demolition. So, and Andre and Haku lost to Demolition. Demolition becomes first ever three-time WWF Tag Team Champions. And that was a great decision. The crowd in Canada, in Toronto, loved Demolition when they went over and beat Andre and Haku. After the match, Bobby Heenan was hot. He was angry. He was screaming and yelling at Andre the Giant, basically hitting his finger in Andre's chest, yelling at him, "You cost us the match. You messed up, you dumb giant." And then Bobby Heenan slapped Andre. He slapped him. That really pissed off Andre. You don't do that to Andre the Giant. You don't slap him across the face and expect him to do nothing. So Andre basically turned face, and this was Andre's last WWF pay-per-view wrestling ever. He appeared at WrestleMania 7 a year later, and he did appear at SummerSlam 91. But other than that, Andre was gone. He retired. But from the ring, I believe WrestleMania 6 was his last match I've ever seen him in the WWF, in a WWF ring. Well, so Haku and Andre lose the tag titles to the Demolition. And up next, you had Earthquake pin Hercules. That was a very short match just to put Earthquake over. Earthquake squashed Hercules in 4 minutes. Brutus Beefcake defeated Mr. Perfect. Their match was decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't that bad. It was just okay. Roddy Piper defeated Bad News Brown and Roddy Piper were both counted out in the match, and they basically brawled to the back of the arena, and they beat the hell out of each other and got counted out, and then refs escorted them both to the backstage area. And Roddy Piper, pretty damn controversial. You could not do this today at all. People wouldn't be able to take it nowadays, and because the world has changed. Anyways, Roddy Piper came out, half of his body was painted black, the other half of him was white. That was nuts. That was pretty controversial, but I thought it was funny as hell. And I'll just tell a little backstage rib about the black paint on Roddy Piper. He tried to get it off after the match. Makeup artist was trying to rub it off, kept trying to rub the black paint off of Roddy Piper, and they could not get it off of him because Andre the Giant and I think Arnold Skolden, longtime backstage employee of WWF, managed Bob Backlund when he was champion. Arnold Skolden, the Golden Boy, Hall of Famer. Arnold Skolden and Andre the Giant played a prank on Roddy Piper and they put something in the stuff that could take the paint off of Piper, the black paint. They put some stuff in it, some solution in it, and it did not work. And Piper could not get the black paint off because of the prank and rib that Andre pulled on him with Arnold Skolden. So Piper had to go to the airport, and his face and his entire body was still painted half black. That's pretty crazy, and that's a great story. And Andre liked to pull a lot of pranks on the boys. He was a prankster. And there's been a lot of great pranksters. Owen Hart, one of the greats, pulled a lot of pranks on a lot of guys. He was known for that. Mr. Fuji, known as one of the all-time great pranksters of all time also, backstage. But his pranks, I believe they were pretty sick and pretty mean. He probably took dumps in guys' bags and basically ruined property, and I guess he thought it was funny. Mr. Fuji was pretty sick with his pranks, but he did them anyways. Up next, other matches on WrestleMania 6 were Hart Foundation defeated the Bolsheviks in 19 seconds. That right there tells you it was not much of a match. Only went 19 seconds. The Barbarian pinned Tito Santana in 4 minutes. Another pointless match. But I'm glad those two guys got to be on WrestleMania 6 anyways. Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire, his longtime manager, this black woman they picked out of the crowd, and I guess Vince thought he could get her over and just put her with Dusty Rhodes and she'll get over. And Sapphire was over. She actually did get over because she had a good personality and people liked her. The fans liked her, so she did get over. But she didn't last long in the WWF. I believe she's around in late 89 when she showed up in late 89. She was gone after SummerSlam 90. So I don't think Sapphire enjoyed the wrestling business and wanted to be in it very long because she was gone pretty soon. Right after SummerSlam 90, she was gone, disappeared. Okay, so Dusty and Sapphire defeat Randy Savage, the Macho King, with his queen and his tag partner, Sensational Sherry. It was an entertaining mixed tag match. First mixed tag match in WrestleMania history. It was entertaining, but it wasn't a good match. But Macho Man could have a good match with Dusty anytime if they ever went one-on-one. I'm sure he did. But not a good way to use Randy Savage at a WrestleMania, putting him in a mixed tag match that did not fit, and that sucked for the Macho Man to have to be in a mixed tag match at a WrestleMania when he could have definitely been in a higher profile matchup on the show. Other matches, the Orient Express defeated the Rockers by countout. It was a decent tag match. There was some high flying stuff in it. It was okay to watch. It wasn't bad, that's for sure. Other matches, Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated Dino Bravo, and it was really boring, and it only went 4 minutes, 15 seconds. This was a good match. I enjoyed it. Ted DiBiase retained his $1 Million championship. The $1 Million title was on the line. And Ted DiBiase defeated Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake was counted out in that match. Went 11 minutes, 56 seconds. The Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake feud came to a head at WrestleMania 6, basically. That was the last match of their feud, and that was good stuff. Big Boss Man beat his former tag partner, Akeem, the African Dream, in 1 minute, 49 seconds. Big Boss Man, I believe he sidewalk slammed him, beat his old partner, and that match was quick and pretty pointless to even have on WrestleMania 6. But I'm sure they wanted Boss Man and Akeem to get a match on WrestleMania. And after WrestleMania 6, Akeem left the WWF. He has said in interviews, the One Man Gang has said, he left, and WWF kept calling him, and they thought he would come back. They thought he was joking when he said he quit, and he's leaving, and he's fed up, and he was burnt out. He was on the road with WWF since summer 87, so he lasted 3 years in the WWF, and he was fed up, and he was sick of what they had nothing for him, and I'm sure he was burnt out because they ran them like crazy on the road in the late 80s and early 90s. So Akeem was gone, aka One Man Gang left after WrestleMania 6, and I don't blame him. He was burnt out. A lot of guys get burnt out and leave, and then they return. One Man Gang did not return until WrestleMania 17 in the Gimmick Battle Royal. But he did work in WCW. Up next, other matches. Last match before the main event, Rick Rude defeated Jimmy Snuka in 3 minutes, 51 seconds. Very fast, quick match. Pretty pointless to be on the show. But again, they wanted all the talent to get on WrestleMania 6. Main event was Ultimate Warrior, Intercontinental Champion. I don't know if he's defending the Intercontinental title. They never mentioned if the Intercontinental title was even on the line. Warrior against Hogan. Main event, WrestleMania 6. It was a great match. The crowd was split down the middle. They both loved Hogan and they loved the Warrior. So that was great to watch and see and hear. When you watch it, you hear the crowd. They loved Hogan and they both loved the Warrior. They were behind both of them. And it was the first time ever, I believe, that you had two baby faces going at it, one-on-one, on a pay-per-view main event. WWF never did that before. They never had two fan favorites wrestling each other. So that was awesome to see. And the match was damn good. Hogan was the veteran. So I'm sure Hogan called a lot of the match. And he put Warrior over, folks. You could say a lot of things about Hulk Hogan. A lot of people bash him. And I guess that a lot of people bash Hogan because they don't like him. They don't like how he's done business in his career. Too bad. In WrestleMania 6, you cannot deny it at all that Hulk Hogan put over the Ultimate Warrior and passed him the torch. He passed him the torch. On the biggest show of the year, Hulk Hogan put over the Ultimate Warrior because the WWF wanted to go with the Ultimate Warrior as champion and as the face of the company. So Hogan did the job, and Hogan did what was best for business. He put over the Ultimate Warrior, and Warrior became WWF champion. His reign did not last long. I know it lasted till Royal Rumble 91, so 10 months. I think 10 or 9 months. The Ultimate Warrior was the WWF champion. In business, I'm sure business was good. I don't think it was as good with Warrior as champion as when Hogan was champion. Because Hogan was champion for so long in the late 80s. And then when he won it back in 1989 at WrestleMania 5, Hogan was the champion for such a long time. And the fans identified the WWF title with Hogan. It was just odd to see Hogan lose to the Warrior and for Hogan not to be the WWF champion and the top guy. And business did go down a little bit. And as you can tell, a year later, 1991, they went back to Hogan and they gave him the title again because it was best for business. But it's not Warrior's fault. His title run wasn't bad, and it's not his fault. They just decided to go back with Hogan. So WrestleMania 6, Hogan and Warrior, that match was awesome. I love that match. Very sad that Ultimate Warrior passed away. Very tragic. He's left his 2 daughters and his wife. That's super sad. And that's heartbreaking. But Warrior made an impact and left his mark for sure in the WWE and the WWF. The Ultimate Warrior for sure will be remembered forever by millions and millions of wrestling fans. The guy made an impact. You can bash his promos. You can bash how he acted, how he would run to the ring. People like to make fun of him for that and like to make fun of him for his promos. But the bottom line is the Ultimate Warrior put butts in seats and he got over, and he was probably the most intense wrestler in the history of the WWE. Him and Randy Savage were probably the most intense wrestlers of all time in their promos and their in-ring work. And Warrior was not a great worker but at WrestleMania 6, he looked damn good in the ring with Hogan. And Hogan should be praised for that match. And Warrior hopefully got praised for that match also. A little fact, a little story I'm going to tell you about. After Warrior defeated Hogan at WrestleMania 6, I was watching it on pay-per-view live at my brother's friend's house. He got the pay-per-view. And I believe back then, because there was only 4 WWF pay-per-views, they were like $59.99 a month, for a year. So they were like $60 because there was only 4 a year. And I'm pretty damn sure I'm right about that. Cable companies and WWF had them priced at like $49.99 or $59.99 because there was only 4 a year. Anyways, I didn't pay a cent. I watched WrestleMania 6 at my brother's friend's house. His parents got the pay-per-view for him and my brother, and I was over there too. Anyways, the story is, when Warrior won, my brother, my brother's 4 years older than me, him and his friend popped and loved it, and they loved that the Warrior went over and beat Hogan and became the new world champ. Me, on the other hand, I hated it. I could not accept it. I was 6 years old, and it was WrestleMania 6. So I'm the same age as WrestleMania. That's a little fact. That's pretty cool, I think. WrestleMania next year, 32. I'll be 32 when WrestleMania 32 is on the air. Anyways, I'm the same age as WrestleMania. I'm sure a lot of people are. But I was not happy when Warrior won the title. My brother and his friend were marking out, and I started crying like a baby, folks. I cried really hard. I could not accept it. I didn't want to accept it. I couldn't take it, and I didn't want to take it. I was a Hulkamania fan forever. I still am a Hogan fan. I grew up a Hogan fan. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan and me seeing him when I was a very young kid, if it wasn't for Hogan, I don't think I would have ever became a wrestling fan. Hogan just drew me to watch wrestling and become a fan. So I cried for probably the entire night. I couldn't take it that Hogan lost the title to the Warrior. I was not happy, and I cried for the entire night. And I was depressed, and I was pissed that Hogan lost to Warrior. That's just a little funny story I thought I would share with you all. Thanks for watching this video, The Year in Wrestling 1990 Part 1. I said I was going to maybe I'll talk about Capital Combat in my next video, and Great American Bash and SummerSlam my next video. And there'll probably be a Part 3 to The Year in Wrestling 1990. And I'll be doing each year of The Year in Wrestling. I'll be doing each year up to 2015. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you watched it, if you did not, that's okay. I'm doing these videos because I'm a huge fan and I love to talk about wrestling. Thanks for watching. If you did, have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy Money in the Bank if you're watching it. Bye for now.